The living room, where the family meets to discuss issues, any issue which may be bothering one of the family members. That's what we do each and every Tuesday on WAC 90.1 FM with Ricardo Mitchell and DJ Aaron868. We have casual conversations on serious topics, from sports to culture, mental health to economics, relationships to life lessons. Join us each and every Tuesday from 7 to 8 p.m. on WAC 90.1 FM. The Living Room, casual conversations on serious topics.
It is now 6 p.m. here in Trinidad and Tobago. I don't know what time it is where you are, but I'm glad to know you're locked on to the true nation station, WACK 90.1 FM, where we are
culture crazy.
First and foremost, let's kick this off as we always do, all right? We must give thanks and praises to the Almighty for granting us the gift of life and seeing another day. Because no matter what time of day it is, you must always give thanks, all right? Secondly, we must remind you also that no matter what time of day it is, there will always be traffic by Shoguners.
That is as factual as a fact could fact.
Right. As the young people, let's say all facts, no printers.
You know what? I don't know who those young people are, but I'm not gonna argue.
Right. We are to continue as we usually do as well. We want to say thank you to those that went before us, and we are not just talking about our ancestors, the original inhabitants of Trinidad and Tobago, because we all know, accept, reiterate, and say it with chest that Columbus lied, but also to our brother in music, Tony Prescott, where the P to speak stands for.
I gotta say performance. I had to say performance. There was a proliferation, rather, of victories this weekend. Right? Yeah, that's what the P is for.
And if you don't know what we're talking about, St. Benedict's lifted the season opening trophy against St. Mary's on Saturday at the Hasty Crawford Stadium.
It wasn't Fatima?
Oh, thank you very much. I stand corrected. Trinidad and Tobago, we defeated Curacao last week Thursday at the Hasty Crawford Stadium as well. And also we put on a stellar comeback to beat El Salvador on Sunday night 3-2. Right? In CONCACAF Nations League B. Right? I heard persons were saying that, well, if you don't know, there's some controversy surrounding the Trinidad and Tobago national football team, as persons would have announced their retirement.
Right.
And according to the public, the social media public, they are saying that they are grateful that that person announced their retirement because it gave a team of young, hungry players the opportunity to take the lead and take the fore and carry our nation's flag, right?
Right.
But we ain't getting down into that. Also, if you're a cricket fan like Ricardo and I, TKR won 3 of their 4 games here in the their local leg of the 2023 CPL.
Correct, is right.
They defeated Barbados, Jamaica, and St. Lucia, and have now qualified for the eliminator stages of the tournament, which will be held in Guyana within the next 2 weeks.
Right.
In other news, Kenny and Aaron, they had a show on Sunday where they featured the talent of Anselm Walters alongside Andre Donowa. Right? Excellent show. Right? Remember, Andre is having his concert on the 21st of October at Cafe Blues. More information will follow.
Excellent.
Like, wait, I see all that in like 2 breaths now.
Yeah, and you still didn't mention Coco Gauff taking the US Open.
And Djokovic winning his like 45th or 89th title.
You should stop counting and just give him like a letter or something for the number of wins he have. Astonishing stuff.
But something else came up real prominent this weekend. A Venezuelan woman, a Venezuelan citizen, won the Miss Grand pageant here in Trinidad and Tobago.
Miss Grand International. Yeah.
And will be representing us later down this year. It wasn't met with the best comments, as well as the satire that also followed. So, guys, we also need to remember to be respectful of our fellow man
and woman.
But when I say fellow man, you know what I meant.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, yeah, that's the patriarchy talking, Aaron. Your fellow person.
My fellow person. Thank you very much, Ricardo. But we need to be more respectful and remember that everybody, even if you may not like something, that don't mean you need to be disrespectful about the way that you comment on it. Right?
I would say if a non-national is representing my country, I would like to hope that they could at least speak the language that the primary language of my country.
Yeah, I understand that.
But I also have no problems with somebody coming into my country and representing my country and doing something to put my country in a positive light, because there are people who would come here after 2 and 3 and 5 and 10 years and make bigger contributions than people who born and grew up here. So all I'm saying is, if you mad, this is Cardo angry moment, right? If you mad at somebody, right, doing something on behalf of the nation in the little time that they've been here to do so, and you wouldn't even buy a curry cue for your street fundraiser or do something for your community or a school, if you mad about somebody doing something for the country, well, I hope that you doing something for the country too.
And I want to add to that as well. I think it's about time that Trinidad and Tobago has taken the positive steps for integration and naturalization of citizens for the benefit of the nation.
According to the Earl of Rab. You see the Earl of Rab post?
No. Well, I'm sure you'll share it with me after, but I long for the day where I could see Juan Carlos playing for the Trinidad and Tobago national football team. Because bet your bottom dollar, there's a lot of talented persons of different nationalities here that we could start to use to our advantage. Because while Cardo looking for the post, remember the American Maths Olympiad team that won how much ever years ago was a team of naturalized citizens from China.
According to Willie Wittawai, Richard Williams, as I fondly call him, the Earl of Rab, it was bound to happen eventually. Time to get some of their ballers' papers so we could improve the football and introduce some of those baseball players to cricket. Right?
Hey, as you say baseball, Ricardo, before we head across the Vorish and bring in our guest, the other day I was driving home passing Skinner Park, and there was a baseball game taking place in the second class grounds.
Vibes. I as I'm saying,
if I wasn't rushing home after work to go and watch cricket, I would have stopped and take it in.
Yeah. Now, to all the people who have these ideas of what naturalization and migration and immigration and all of these things should involve, issues. Right? All I say that could have, anyway. What I saying is, my grandmother come across from Venezuela, right? So I have no qualms whatsoever. Secondly, I'm sure all they have family overseas who representing colleges and all them types of things in sports, and given opportunity to red, white, and blue a flag instead of red, white, and black, you'll probably take it. So let ease me up, please. Ease me up. No, I ain't saying I'm in complete agreement with what it is going on, but what I'm saying is I do have a horse in that particular race. Right? I just calling it both ways.
So guys,
we just no. I have to do this. This is important because there was a green band maxi, right, in the back by St. Helena there when you're cutting to the airport. He put on a fantastically spectacular abuse of the roundabout. Actually, what is this? HBE1204, Mr. Man, do they got hers, but you put on a proper 36 drive on a roundabout, a proper 36. And secondly, that's why I put my feet hanging my hat very quickly. Saturday afternoon, that staff at the departure lounge on the domestic flight, I really never felt that welcome walking into our airport as I have in that particular instance, right? It was literally walking in and smiles and jokes and it was the most really in Tobago actually. It was the most. Listen, I just saying big up that whole shift. That big up that whole shift. Love all you.
TIL. Tobago is love.
Correct is right. But yeah, I made it.
Right. So, we have any bios to read or anything before we bring in Vorish?
Well, our guest is no stranger to the living room, and as far as I'm concerned, who doesn't know her will probably get to know by the end of the program. So, Vorish could take it away.
Welcome.
I'll leave that in.
Welcome to the living room. Welcome to the living room. Welcome to the living room. Welcome to the living room.
And we are back after that lovely musical intro from our favorite. Look, Aaron is lip syncing to silence. Yes, from Warish, right? Love you guys, and we're looking forward to your concert coming up. Woman is boss, something along those lines. Was that last year's title? Either way, let me look to book my ticket. Aaron and Wak will be paying for them so that we could get a little footage and thing inside the event as media coverage. No, that's not how it's going. No. All right. Well,
the views expressed by Ricardo Mitchell are the views of Ricardo Mitchell and him alone, and not the views of Aaron868 or of WAC 90.1 FM.
I had to get out of the way bright and early.
Yes.
Right. And we have with us a dear friend, my personal friend. Right? She's also a comrade in arms because, well, while I'm just a mental health advocate, she is a mental health professional. Right? We work together on a mentorship program with the Sophia Miriam Foundation. She's no stranger to the living room. And one of my favorite things to say ever is that she's an educational psychologist. Right? I believe that this is a very important element of the thing. Right? There's one thing to tell people to get help, but there's another thing to point out to them that the people that they're leading, shepherding, stewarding, and bringing up might have different challenges to what they have. Because back in the day, they would not have called it what they're calling it now because they didn't know that this is what it was. So with our focus, hopefully today on pointing out some of the challenges our students will be going through over the next academic year and what they've went through before, we'd like to reintroduce to the living room Ms. Deborah Gibran, aka Debbie Gibran. Debbie, welcome to the living room.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
And we okay with calling you Debbie for the purpose of this interview, right?
Yes, please.
All right, great. So Debbie, again, you are no stranger to being here with us, right? So we're gonna ask you probably the easiest question, actually no, the hardest question you're going to get inside today's interview, because we have realized over the tenure of asking this question, everybody is comfortable asking the things that they come to talk about, but they're not comfortable asking or answering the thing about themselves. So we're not asking you, where's the scene, or where's the word hummingbird, or what's the gist physicist?
You could have go with where's the gist psychologist?
Or what's the gist psychologist? What we are asking you is, how are you?
I am blessed. I am good with God's grace. I am working very hard. I am stressed a little. I am a little bit anxious. But in a nutshell, I can say I am good with all of the challenges that are faced, personal, work-wise, the bigger sphere of things. I am good. So unless you want to have a whole therapy session, I don't mind. Get free therapy right now.
I'll leave that to Ricardo. Because as much as I do work in the field,
yes,
and when I say in the field, I mean I work at a company that does counseling. I am not a trained therapist in any way, form, or fashion, and I will never in life pretend to do so, because I have utmost respect for what this field does, the help that it provides not only to the adults or the elders in society, but also to the young and upcoming generation in identifying with them that, you know what, the things that we would have gone through, one, is not the things that you are going through, as Ricardo said earlier, but also in fact that the things that we ignored as adults are real issues that need to be addressed.
Correct.
So I have, as the kids would say, I have mad respect for what you all do. I think they say that, I'm too sure. But I have a lot of respect for what you all do, and I'm happy that you are here today to discuss. What is going on with me? 2 days of traffic on the highway and these were going on. Anyhow.
Is discussed or discussed, you say?
I said discussed.
Oh, okay. But the disgust of the traffic.
Yeah, the disgust, yeah, boy. Here now. Anyhow, so be here, let me ask it one time, off the bat. A lot of the children who are back in school now would have been home 2 years prior to that due to the panini that we were in, right? Have you noticed anything new or significant changes about student issues?
Well, I don't want to really say new per se, because I mean, we always had anxiety around, we always had mental health disorders, we also have always had learning disorders. But I think on one hand, this panini happened, and you got this discourse, this full range of like an eruption, you know, it in a volcano, all the anxiety, all the learning disorders, all the mental health disorders, and the panini just, I don't know, it just blew everything out of proportion, boom, and it becomes a high scale. So I don't think it's really new, but there are significant aspects of what is happening now with students of different age range as well. So, for example, let's say we have a child who would start primary school. So they may have missed out on preschool, right? So they didn't get that social communication, the social interaction with children that helps you along the way at that age, 3, 4, 5, to build that, you know, resilience, build that camaraderie, or whatever you want to call it, for elementary school. So a child starting elementary school, let's say last year, it would have been very, very difficult for that child because they would have missed out on preschool. And you're going straight into school with children, and not just 30 children in a school, but you're going to a school with 200, 300, all different ages, and it's like, oh my goodness. Some children would back away from that. The anxiety would show up more. You see? I have students actually, I saw students actually who are at the age of, they're going to do Form 5, CXE, or KEEP. They would have missed out or got accustomed to online schooling. There's another set of anxiety raised there because they went back to school last year or the year before, within the last 2 years then. And a lot of eruption there would have taken place in terms of anxiety again.
Now, bear with me here. Ricardo, last week, when you went to watch TKR win, right?
Yeah.
You spoke of a level of social anxiety to go into a crowd in the Queen's Park Oval for a sporting event as an adult. So, and that was how much people, what? Probably close to 20,000 in one space?
Yeah, in one fell swoop, yes.
Yeah, right? So, and you're talking about the anxiety to be one of 20,000. So in terms of maths, that's a big ratio. But now let's scale it down. 1 of 800. To be reintroduced into a scenario that all you had before was staring at a screen and seeing Ricardo and Debbie in class. Now you had to go and sit down next to Ricardo and Debbie, and you didn't know that Ricardo liked to bite the fingernails and pelt people with the chippings, and that is something else you had to deal with too.
Yes.
or people with classmates with sinus issues, so they're doing the whole throat scratching, snorting thing.
Hey, whoa. Why you got to reach to that?
Apparently, I'm a nail biting, clipping thrower. So do they got hers?
But you know, if I could interject here, they said that there are students who, because of the panini, they have become so germophobic that they do not want to go to school because they do not want to be around any other person besides family, and even family members, they particular.
Mm-hmm.
I know somebody personally who does that, a child. And I have met in the field of work children who came and, you would shake their hands. No, they're not shaking your hand. They come into the office, they have to have on their mask, even if it's just me and that person, because they don't know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they meet me for the first time, but they're so germophobic because of this pandemic. This pandemic had a devastating effect, and we're not even seeing the gist of it.
Yeah.
So,
I will always reiterate. People think that COVID was the malaria, but to me it was just the mosquito, It was the delivery system for the trouble that was coming afterwards. Because Debbie, as you say that day, it just hit me. You're talking about a generation that one of their pillars of how society is supposed to interact is incorrectly laid in a foundation of don't touch anyone, don't get close to anyone. It's not even stranger danger, Is every and anybody is a possible threat. That is what is ingrained in their psyches in these developmental stages. Your whole
So
idea is that everybody is a threat.
So you can imagine what's going on. We are all social creatures, right? We that's how we were made. We were created to be social beings. So you live in a life as a teenager or a child, like you're on an island by yourself. Because how are you going to have social interaction? See where the social anxiety will come in even more, because remember the volcano, it just erupted. Because we always had anxiety. Anxiety was there forever. Probably Adam and Eve had anxiety too. Yeah, I don't know. So it always had anxiety. But now it's like a horse of a different color. That's what they say.
Yeah. You can imagine the internal struggle of wanting company but being afraid of people.
That is it.
This is what they're going to grow up with.
Mm-hmm.
No. Yeah, Aaron.
The thing about it is, right? As you said, Debbie, and I must commend you for being a team sport in terms of calling it the panini. I must shout you out for that, right? But back to the real issue here. As you said, anxiety always existed. But in Trinidad and Tobago, there is a big hesitance for seeking professional help. Yes, I know within the schools, there are guidance officers placed where students can go and talk to someone should they see a need. But I think most times that's a reactionary action as opposed to a precautionary one, right? How does the school as an institution assist with getting persons back to feeling comfortable for social interaction?
Well, schools as a whole, they should, I don't like to bash schools, right? You asked me a hard question here, but it's not hard.
That's what I'm here to do.
It's all challenging. It's okay. Challenge accepted. You see, the policy, one of the school policies states, they talk about those things, about having school counselors. There's a government school policy, right? This is what they made, right? I didn't make this. They talk about having school counselors to easy transition back into school. I think it's on page 62, right? Yeah, I could quote. You see, if you're quoting something, I'd quote it good, right? Few things. I'm not making up anything. I read the policy on inclusion not too long ago because I had a client who wanted to. Teachers were encouraging the child to come back to school, but the child is diagnosed with ADHD. The child cannot function in a normal mainstream classroom, right? And on top of the ADHD, he has a social communication on the autism spectrum level 1. So we can't have that. So they have to pay for it because we don't have the facilities, maybe the resources to put special needs teachers for each child who has a special need in the classroom. But schools can implement certain strategies and techniques to help with the transition, to help with children who have anxiety. Simple things. Some recommendations would be things like having them follow a structure, having them follow routine. This goes to parents as well. Being more supportive. Teachers have I have a lot of respect for teachers. Teachers have a very, very difficult job. It's challenging and difficult at the same time because you have 30, 40, 45, I don't know how much students they have in a class right now. And most of them, especially the age range, you see in ADHD in the children. Wait, what was the question again? You remember the question?
Well,
sometimes I tend to go on and on.
No. That is a perfect example. That is actually a perfect example of the ADHD element. Our attention span generally is not what it used to be. Right? But Aaron is talking about.
It isn't.
1 minute what?
No, that the attention span is 1 minute.
Oh yeah, I walked into a store the other day and forget what I went in for, and it's only when I was leaving I remember that I went in the store for that reason. But the question was really along the lines of in terms of schools putting things in place, or what do they have in place for this reintroduction, and the angle you took was not just the anxiety element of students generally, but also the fact that a lot of students now would be expressing these different challenges.
Yes, learning problems. So the ADHD, I mean, it's something going on with the brain that they can't help. It's just something that it is what it is, right? And we need to help them. We need to have things in place, strategies and techniques to facilitate them in the classroom if you want them to be mainstream, because most of the parents, they can't afford putting a child to, in the special needs schools. It is very expensive. Really, really expensive. So having them mainstream, that is something that I am hoping that we could do something about that. Since the last time we spoke, it was something that I had in thought, but it's a big entity for just 1 or 2 psychologists or 1 or 2 teachers to do. It's something huge because we're looking at all the schools here. To have aides, we need to pay the aides. The special needs teacher, we need to train our teachers. But then the thing is, you're training the teachers to teach certain subjects. So now you have to train the teachers to identify disorders in the classroom. So what you really doing there? The salary remains the same, or you get somebody additional to help, like that's burnout for the teacher. See? So I don't think, from what I have seen, that a lot of things are implemented in the schools. I don't see it.
So, Ricardo, after this rant, I think I might get pulled for radio here. How many times have I lambasted our government and our funding system about the fact that recurrent expenditure is so big a portion of the budget? If every time in the Ministry of Education budget they get $9 million, right? But $8 million is for salaries. How do you expect a new problem to be rectified if you only have $1 million? When you might need to hire 100 people for 100 different schools. Understand what I'm saying? Out of this pandemic, as you said, and rightfully said, the fallout wasn't just the health issue, and the financial issue at that time. Now we are dealing with the social issues. And the social issues, not just with the adults who can't socialize enough. We're talking about the children who have to be reintegrated into an already archaic educational system without proper care, without proper consideration, without proper, and I use this term very carefully, without proper love and affection for the issues which they are facing. Now, Debbie's one person, she can't do it all. We know our next fella, Cardo Sule, he can't do it all.
We know teachers like Sion, who lead in, who take. I had to big them up though. There are certain schools are taking in front with this thing,
Yes.
Right.
But again, admittedly, Ricardo, not every school would have access to additional funding. And it could only ask so much people to volunteer as well.
How much barbecue? I mean, a lot of. There was even an issue a couple.
I'm glad for the barbecues, as a bachelor. That as a man that living alone, I'm glad to buy food.
As a man who look for the nearest roti shop in any community that I go into, I understand, Aaron. I understand. But what we're also looking at is parents cannot keep funding the education system. I am sorry. Parents cannot keep funding the education system because we either taking the money from me in front at the start of the term, or you're taking it from me during the course of the term with every project that comes up, donation sheets, fundraising, this, that, and the other. But anyway, that's a whole other conversation. What right now?
I know there's not that rant wasn't for this forum, but it just felt most appropriate at that time because we had to sort this problem out, and it takes financial backing from the government.
It's a very serious issue, but we going in circles. I realize that we just going in circles. People talking about it. People will make promises about it, but they're not putting where the money where the mouth is. Because it's money we need, and it's a very, very serious issue, and it is affecting the children. But I do not understand why. What is the reason that we can't have these things facilitated in the schools? Something. Come up with something. And parents will help. We will do all the barbecues and curry queues and pilau queues and whatever, panini queues, whatever it takes. But give us an incentive. Give us something. Start something.
Yeah.
It depending on the schools themselves to do it. What about the other schools? So then everybody will gravitate towards a certain school.
Right.
And I'll go and say that because you feel a sense of belonging to the school you went. So if you see school A having a barbecue, you might support school A alone.
Yeah.
Well, what ends up happening is that the idea of a prestige school comes from the fact that certain school communities are more engaging and willing to engage in projects that the community would believe to be beneficial. So we've seen over the years schools that would not have been considered prestige school 20 years ago, because the alumni or because the community take a deliberate interest in creating programs or taking steps that were not there before, they start to generate a kind of reputation and a repertoire. So what we're saying is for the schools who don't have the resources, be it the personnel or the finances to start these things, what chance they have?
That is true.
We I don't know. We spent the last 5 minutes just addressing, I think, the biggest problem that facing the care and the love that these children need in this situation. But it's time we start to talk about what is being done currently. Because Ricardo, we're not just about the problems, we're about solutions as well, right?
Well, Debbie, I like the point that you raised earlier in terms of the younger kids and the importance of the time that they would have lost. Right? There's something else that we're seeing happen with some of the older kids. According to our TV6 July the 4th, 2023 report, 58% of SEA students, just over 58%, scored over 50% in SEA. Right? Ironically, the Ministry of Education released that 58% of CSEC students obtained a minimum of 5 subjects. Right, and we know that 5 CXC subjects is the certificate, right? It's considered a full certificate, right? So we're seeing fairly consistently that 58%, I like to round numbers off. Like we say less than, just about 2/3, less than 2/3 of students hitting
that math's no.
It's 3/5, Aaron.
60%.
It's 3/5. I know it's 3/5, but people don't like to deal with fifths. Who do they say deal with fifths in fractions, Aaron?
Say 60%, Ricardo.
You know what, Aaron? Thank you for that, Aaron. Thank you, Mr.
No problem.
Accountant. So clearly you don't want to round nothing up, but 60% of our students hitting acceptable marks. We're not even talking about top tier results. We're not talking about outstanding performance. We're talking about acceptable for passing.
Yeah.
Right? 60% of our students. I don't think that this is going to improve dramatically over the next couple of years, because it's not like a lot of the numbers were impressive pre-pandemic. Right? But when you 12, 13 years old going into a new school environment and you barely know half of what it is you are supposed to have learned before you go into this thing now, where instead of 4 subjects or 3 subjects, you have 12 or 13, right? Or when you finish secondary school and that was just ordinary level, and now you're going into the advanced level or even the tertiary level, and you know for a fact, I passed 3 out of 8 subjects, right? What can we do as parents, as teachers, as students, as mentors, leaders? What can we do to help this generation of student regain the confidence in terms of transitioning from one educational or performance level into the other, when these are the kind of results we're seeing? What we could do for the confidence?
Well, as parents, we could do a lot of things as parents, and it doesn't matter really the age. It's a general thing. One of the things you do, is, for me, is I believe I tell parents especially, to show empathy. It's a big thing. People might think it's a little thing. Oh yeah, I know what she's going through. Do you really know what she's going through? Do you really know what he's going through? Because he's not you when you were that age. Every child is different. It's like every human being is different. Showing empathy to the child would help them to gain that esteem, or maybe just the support, knowing that the blind man is.
Yeah, Aaron, you had to give you a heads up before you pull that curtain with the sun setting over your shoulder.
My apologies. I just heard some strange rustling outside.
Okay.
So one of the best things you could do as a parent, teachers too, right? Mentors. Empathy. Show empathy for your child. Show empathy for that child, no matter the age, because when they go back to school, they have all these things happening. So when they encourage them to talk about it, encourage them by asking, open-ended questions, not just, you had a good day in school today? Yeah, go on in your room. How was school today? What did you do? Did you have lunch? Did you speak to this child or that child? So we'd have an example. This 4-year-old child would come from school every day. The parents would think now that child is too young to understand empathy or to understand support, all these fancy words we use for older children. So they don't ask him anything in terms of how was school or did you have a good day, nothing like that. This child was getting bullied by another child. This is 4 years old, 1, 2, 3, 4. Was getting bullied in school by another child. The teacher was seeing it, wasn't saying anything. Because apparently the teacher had a favorite with the other child who was open and brave, as they say. They say the child was open and brave and they liked the child, but the other one who was being bullied was quiet and more submissive. So this went on for a few months until the child stopped eating and was having problem even going to the toilet, to use the toilet, because the child was getting constipated, not eating. was very down, and the thought was they brought the child was showing tantrums, right? So they brought the child thinking that the child has ADHD. And you see what we uncovered? The child was not ADHD. The child was just lashing out because of what was happening, because the parents wasn't involved and supportive and encouraging to this little child. And this goes on for, no matter what age the child is, they can do that. You build a system, a routine for them. Curfew is a good thing. Having a bedtime, taking away your phones, your laptop at a certain time. When you know you have to go to bed, puff it up. Laptop, tablet, phone. Because you're going to sleep, so you don't really need it, right? Buy an alarm clock. Put it there. Don't use your phone, use the alarm clock. They have alarm clocks selling for $50, $60. Works perfectly fine. I have one. You do things like make them stick to a plan. Have a plan with them, like long-term goals. We talk about that, having a vision board. Those type of things parents can help with their child. Teachers could do it also in the schools to help these children with the anxiety, with feeling good about exams when exam come around, because they have a lot of anxiety with exams. Some of them are not prepared for it because they didn't do the work based on certain things that happen home. Family disputes, somebody may have died, somebody may have gotten sick, or mommy and daddy only quarreling and they can't handle it. Domestic abuse. Parents, a lot of them don't see that they are the problem, right?
I want to ask you to say that again for the people in the back, or for who walk out of the room and may have missed that point.
Because I've seen it a lot. Parents do not think that they are to blame for anything that is happening with their child that is negative. Once it's positive, that's my child. I think when I see that already, a lot of people see that, but no one says anything, because the first thing, okay, I would see something happening. This is my client, and I would try to say it in the nicest way possible. Because for one, I don't want them to take the child and go, and I'm not finished with the child. Or they take the child and go, but they continue with the panininess. Whatever they're doing, so I try to incorporate in the educational psychological point and that whole encapsulation, if you may. Try to incorporate parental support. I will support the parents. That's fine, because I want what's best for the child. I am looking at the long-term effect rather than, you do this for the child and send them on the way. That's why when you do educational psychology or even counseling, whatever, once you're a psychologist, you do the whole holistic thing. You look at teacher, you look at child, and you look at parents. Because parents have a lot to do with their children having anxiety, having problems with exams, because they lack that empathy, I guess, because they say, I went through it, so you could go through it too. No, your child is different. This is a different times we're living in. It's a different atmosphere. The sun's so hot. I can't remember simple thing like that,
Yeah,
I can't remember when the sun was so hot. We're living in a different time. People don't seem to understand that. Parents don't seem to understand that. You are not a child, so.
I'm going to say, a lot of us would have grown up in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. But we're facing problems in 2023. As I was discussing yesterday with some of the younger staff members at work, they were talking about the problems that they are facing at their age of 20, in their early 20s, right? And the younger ones are growing up with those problems and will face totally different ones when they get to that age as well. I remember also sitting with my grandfather and telling him I was stressed about something. And he asked me what I know about stress at my young age. So it takes a lot for the older generation, one, to accept that here we're going on all there. These problems were not problems I faced. It takes a lot for us to accept that. It takes a lot for us to even listen to some of the problems that our children may be facing. Because the peacock that we was accustomed getting when we was children ain't the same level of peacock the children getting now.
Yeah.
It hard out here.
Yes.
So our parents don't know the challenges that we have because we didn't have a toad water or tie goat before you went to school. As far as they're concerned, you didn't have to work garden before you go into school. You have it nice. And what they don't understand is that if somebody tell them something in school and they fight and then they go home and the two of them make up and is friend again, that's very different to growing up in an environment with the internet and technology where 1,000 people will jump on and have something to say about it and you cannot fight all. They have no going home and making up and being friends after. And they have no idea what it's like for, oh gosh, don't tell mommy I get in trouble versus doing something and it being forwarded and circulated and going viral.
MYOB.
Right?
Yeah.
Then the generation like us who grew up with that don't understand what it's like for the kids now who grew up in an internet age, but now they have to navigate AI. And you don't know if the person you're talking to is forget fishing, you know. Reach a point where you don't even know if you're talking to a human. You don't know if the pictures you're seeing is of an actual person. Right? What I'm saying is we had to get together.
Different.
Right.
Another thing too with that part of it, remember the type of jobs that's available is the competition, right? When I was 16, 17, I work in a supermarket, I work in a clothes store, Jimmy Abood, man. I cut in clothes and getting my money and I happy like papi. That's what to say? No, the competition in these schools are so demanding. The type of work that they're doing now is so heavy. It's a heavy base. Talking about that, what do you think about the SEA? Think they should demolish that?
I think SEA should have been tossed. It should have been tossed. You see, when they move it from common entrance to SEA, they should have taken advantage of the transition and eliminated it in its entirety. But nobody wants to be the one who says, get rid of it.
So I agree with that. I also agree that the level of testing which students are subjected throughout the entire school tenure, primary school and then subsequently secondary school tenure, it is too strenuous. So that when they get to the university level now, some children suffering from burnout in year one at university. And furthermore, as we discussing this part of it, I also think that social integration should be a greater emphasis should be placed on that in first year and second year, as opposed to what is being done now.
I think the schools that are going to be considered prestige in the next 8 to 10 years are going to be the schools that start reintroducing trades as part of the extracurricular activity or the general curriculum. Now you will celebrate going to a school that teaches you how to do something with your hands as well as your head. That is the new prestige is going to be the schools that give you a trade with your certificate.
Yes, I agree with that.
I you know that's my thing, long time. But again, guys, I want to use my big word that I try to use every week to make sure that I don't forget it.
Mm-hmm.
We are getting perilously close to the hour of 7 p.m. here in Trinidad and Tobago. I don't know what time it is where you are, but I'm glad to know you're locked onto the true nation station, WACK 90.1 FM. All right. Now, Debbie, I would love to have you back for another episode because we didn't get to touch on some of the things we wanted to touch on. So we could probably look at, not next week, the week after, because next week we want to have an episode talking about suicide as it's Suicide Prevention Month. We have to give suicide that space.
Yep.
Right?
You know, I have a kind of way. Even if you do already have somebody in mind for that conversation, I would like to throw something at the wall and see if it sticks here. But Debbie, do you think that the increase in suicide rates that we see in, particularly amongst adolescents and teens, do you think any of it is related to some of the types of things that we're talking about in this episode?
Definitely. I can't reveal my clients because I do counseling and therapy as well, right? But definitely, you have cutters, right? Eventually they cut too hard and that's it, they're gone. It have the level of stress for the work. Upper level, for example, is upper level, they call it the upper six. Cape. The lower, when it now starts that part of it, and they have exams for each year now. For the 2 years, they have exams. And someone would have said, I cannot handle the level of work. This is a prestige. So instead of hitting that blade on my hand or one of my veins to let bleed out, this is a 16-year-old, right? I prefer to take my fist and bounce on a wall. Why? I don't know. Could it be because the emotional pain, the emotional stress that comes from the schoolwork is so much to handle that you prefer to feel physical pain? Suicide is rampant because of these things. I can't say a lot about it, but I am saying it out of experience from what I have literally heard. It stems from this.
So, Debbie, we'll navigate the direction that the next 2 or 3 conversations going to go. But in closing, just want to find out from you, could you point us in the direction of any resources that's just in terms of getting a better idea, in terms of your favorite YouTube channels or a website you might go on to, that type of thing?
There wasn't really a YouTube channel per se. There are books. We're talking about ADHD and all those things, right? Learning this. So there are books that you could go to. There are something called Reading Out Loud. Reading Out Loud is an online help for dyslexia, children who would have dyslexia. It's an online program. There is also something called, I had to put it in the chat, is a K12reader.com. K12reader.com, and that will show you where to go to get resources to help your child with dyslexia. Some of the things you could do in the classroom for like dysgraphia, when a child having problems writing, especially smaller ones, you use like embossed paper, raised lines, so they feel it. It's like braille, but they feel it, so the motor skills get better. There is also a book called The Misunderstood Child. That book is it addresses, it's used like ADHD and ADD and all those things. It's by Larry Silver. Then we have there's a Misunderstood Child. Then we have growth mindset activities. That's for children to do. It's a book by Esther Cordova, Cordova. And then we have something called Learning Differently. by Casano, Casano. But if you go on YouTube and you type up learning disorders, Khan academics, they do a lot of visual for you to understand what it is like. So teachers and parents could do that.
Thank you very much, Debbie.
And last question, how can you get in contact with DG Psychological and Counseling Services?
Through the website. DG Psychological and Counseling Services is our website. Through my number 486-1298. That's basically it.
And they're calling that number for business purposes only, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's common. We always stress that, right? Debbie, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for sitting in with us tonight inside this episode of The Living Room. We shed a lot of light on what is the issue that is currently being faced, but we also shed even more light on things that can be done to assist with the issues that are being faced. Right? I want to thank you for the work that you are doing. Sorry, let me say it again. I want to thank you for the work that you have done, that you are doing, and that you will continue to do.
Thank you.
And I wish you and your business nothing but success. And thank you again for the human service that you do, not just to Trinidad and Tobago, but to the youth of our country.
Definitely. Oh, there's one more book that can help greatly. It's called the Bible.
I heard about that one.
It's a good book, and it has it have a lot of things that we discussed. You have it there?
Yeah, I have it right here.
A book.
And they're so fancy now. They're coming in multiple versions in the same hardcover.
Yeah, nice book. Really nice book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. So let me sign out now, Ricardo, and I'll leave you to do the balance. Right. This is yours truly, DJ Aaron868. I remind you that culture is my cool. All right. And I also tell you that love is the currency. So spend some today. Let somebody know that you love them, guys.
Yeah.
So Debbie, thank you again. Of course, you and I are going to continue doing the work. I'd appreciate you taking this time for this conversation. And this is Ricardo Mitchell, the social sage on the global stage. I want to thank you guys for joining us in the living room tonight. Remember, guys, the hourglass is opaque. We don't know how much time remains. So whatever you're doing, be good and stay safe and hydrate. And hydrate. Do use styrofoam and hydrate, because this place is a tad warm, right?
And
we have
and keep it locked for Mr. Desmond up next.
All right.